Some nights divide your life into before and after. It was 11:47 p.m. when the phone rang. I remember the time because I was standing at the kitchen sink, hands in warm dish water, watching the steam rise like it always did on Wednesday nights. Mac and cheese again. Emma had ballet, and Wednesday meant comfort food and an early bedtime. The house had gone still in that way it only does when a child is asleep. 7 years of raising my daughter alone had taught me to treasure that quiet. Not because it was lonely. Because it wasn't. It was earned. I had just set the last plate in the rack when my phone buzzed on the counter. Unknown number, local area code. Normally I would have let it ring out, but something in me paused. I dried my hands slowly like I was already bracing for something I couldn't name, and answered. Hello? Silence, not the empty kind, the kind that waits. Hello? I said again, softer. Then I heard it, a breath, shaky, familiar. Caleb. My whole body went still. I would know that voice anywhere. Across a crowded room. Across a lifetime.
Lena.
There are people who leave your life but never really leave your heart. Lena Harper had been one of those for me. My wife's best friend. A steady presence in our early years. The kind of woman who laughed with her whole body. After Sarah died, Lena disappeared. Grief does strange things to people. We both stepped back from something neither of us knew how to face. 7 years passed, and now she was whispering my name into the dark. I'm sorry, she said, her voice breaking. I didn't know who else to call. My throat felt tight. Where are you? A pause, wind in the background. He locked me out. Those 4 words landed heavy. I didn't ask who. I already knew. Small towns talk. I'd heard about Derek Vaughn, the big house on Maple Street, the kind of man who looked polished in every photo. I'm outside, she continued. I don't have my keys. I can't go back in. I looked toward the hallway where Emma slept. Purple nightlight glowing under her door. Safe. Stay where you are, I said. My voice surprised me with how steady it sounded. I'm coming. Are you sure? Yes. I grabbed my jacket from the hook by the door, scribbled a quick note for Emma in case she woke, kissed my fingers and pressed them to her doorframe like I had every night since Sarah died. Then I stepped out into the November cold. The truck engine turned over rough like it always did when the air got sharp. I pulled out of my driveway and headed toward Maple Street, toward the nicer part of town where lawns were trimmed perfect and porch lights glowed warm. Still there? I asked through the speaker. I'm here, she said, under a streetlight. What color? A small pause. Orange, like old honey. I nodded even though she couldn't see me. Good. I'll see it. I didn't know what waited at the end of that street. I just knew she had called. And when Lena called, Maple Street looked different at night. The houses stood tall and quiet, each one spaced just far enough apart to suggest privacy. The kind of neighborhood where nothing ever seemed out of place. Where problems were supposed to stay behind closed doors. I saw her before she saw me. She was sitting on the curb beneath that orange streetlight, arms wrapped around herself. No coat, just a thin sweater. November air biting at her bare hands. I pulled up and cut the engine. For a second, she didn't move. Then she looked up, and when our eyes met, something in her face broke. Relief, not loud, not dramatic, just a soft collapse. Lena, I said, stepping out. She stood, but her legs didn't look steady. The distance between us felt longer than it was. 7 years can do that. Then she was in front of me, and then she was against me. She didn't ask permission. She didn't apologize. She just folded into my chest like she had run out of strength to stand on her own. Her hands clutched the back of my jacket. I could feel her shaking, not just from cold. I'm sorry, she whispered into my shoulder. Don't, I said. You don't apologize for needing help. Over her head, I saw a curtain move in one of the upstairs windows of the house behind her. Someone was awake. Someone had locked her out. My jaw tightened, but I kept my voice calm. Let's get you warm. I opened the passenger door and helped her in. She tried to buckle herself, but her fingers trembled too much, so I leaned across and did it for her. Up close, I saw it, a red mark along her cheek. Faint, but there. Her phone screen was cracked, spiderwebbed from one corner. I didn't ask questions, not yet. I handed her my jacket. She pulled it around herself without a word. The drive back was quiet. The heater hummed. Tires rolled steady over empty roads. She stared out the window like she was trying to remember what normal felt like. My neighborhood looked smaller after Maple Street. Older houses. Faded siding. Christmas lights someone had hung too early. Emma's purple stickers still clinging to the porch light. Home. I pulled into the driveway and turned off the engine. Emma's asleep, I said gently. You can stay as long as you need. She looked at me then, really looked. Her eyes were rimmed red but clear. Caleb, I don't want to ruin anything. You didn't, I said. You called, I came, that's all. Inside, the house smelled faintly like cinnamon and laundry soap. Familiar. Safe. I locked the door behind us. Deadbolt, chain, habit. I saw her shoulders loosen at the sound of the lock sliding into place. Safe. The spare room was ready in minutes. I hadn't changed it much since Sarah passed. Soft blue walls. A quilt folded at the foot of the bed. Lena stepped into the doorway and froze. This was hers, she whispered. Yeah. She ran her fingers along the edge of the dresser, like she was touching something fragile. You kept everything. Some things aren't meant to be erased. She nodded slowly. Get some sleep, I said. We'll talk in the morning. She turned toward me then, like she wanted to say something more. Maybe about the years between us. Maybe about that rainy day at the funeral when almost meant something else. But she didn't. She just closed the door softly. I stood there for a long time listening to the quiet house breathe. Emma upstairs. Lena down the hall. The past and the present under one roof again. And I knew even then this night wasn't just about a locked door. It was about something breaking open. I didn't sleep much that night. I lay on top of the covers fully dressed, staring at the ceiling, listening for sounds that never came. The house creaked the way old houses do when the temperature drops. Pipes ticking, floorboards settling. Every noise felt louder than usual. Not because the house had changed, because my life had. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her on that curb. No coat, no keys, no one else to call. He locked me out. Those words kept circling. I'd only seen Derek Vaughn once. At the grocery store. Tall, polished. The kind of man who looked like he belonged on a billboard for success. His hand had rested on the small of Lena's back like he owned the space behind her. I'd turned my card around that day. I told myself it didn't matter, but it did. Just before dawn, I gave up on sleep and went to the kitchen, started coffee. The old drip machine Sarah bought at a yard sale still worked fine. She used to say fancy didn't mean better. The sky outside turned from black to gray to soft pink. I heard footsteps behind me. Lena stood in the doorway, wrapped in my jacket again. Hair down, face washed clean. She looked smaller somehow, not weak, just worn thin. Coffee? I asked. She nodded. I handed her a mug the way she used to take it years ago. Black, no sugar. Our fingers brushed for half a second. It felt like touching a live wire. We sat at the kitchen table, same table where she and Sarah used to laugh over stories that didn't include me. Same table where Emma learned to color inside the lines. He hates that I took the job, Lena said quietly, staring into her cup. What job? The nonprofit downtown. I started 6 months ago. Better hours. Something that felt mine. She paused. At first it was small things. Questions about where I'd been, who I talked to, suggestions about what I should wear. He said he just wanted to protect me. Her hands tightened around the mug. Then it became checking my phone. Showing up at my office. Calling if I didn't answer within minutes. I stayed quiet, let her speak. He never hit me, she said quickly. Not like that. But he'd grab my face when he was angry, make me look at him, tell me I was ungrateful, that I was lucky he chose me. My jaw tightened, but I kept my voice steady. And last night? I stayed late at work. When I got home, he was waiting. He went through my phone, threw it against the wall, told me if I loved my job so much, maybe I should sleep there. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Then he locked the door. We sat in silence. Upstairs, a floorboard creaked. A few seconds later, small footsteps padded toward the stairs. Dad? Emma called. Why are you up so early? Lena wiped her eyes quickly. In here, sweetheart, I answered. Emma appeared in the doorway in purple pajamas, hair wild from sleep, clutching her stuffed elephant. She stopped when she saw Lena. Miss Lena? Lena smiled through tears. Hi, Emma. Emma walked straight to her and wrapped her arms around her waist. I'm glad you're here, she said simply. Dad talks about you sometimes. Lena's breath caught. Emma pulled back and studied her face carefully. Are you sad? When I'm sad, Dad makes pancakes. I met Lena's eyes over Emma's head. Maybe healing doesn't start with big speeches. Maybe it starts with pancakes. We made pancakes. Emma insisted on stirring the batter. Flour ended up on the counter, the floor somehow even in her hair. Lena laughed for the first time since I'd picked her up. A quiet, surprised sound like she hadn't expected it to come out. The kitchen felt warmer than it had in weeks. Emma talked the whole time, about a spelling test, about a boy who wouldn't share crayons, about how purple should be the official color of everything important. Lena listened like it mattered, asked questions, smiled in the right places. For a few minutes it almost felt normal. After Mrs. Chen picked Emma up for school, the house grew quiet again. Lena stood at the mantel staring at a photo from Emma's first birthday. Sarah holding cake in one hand, Emma in the other. Lena standing beside them, her arm around Sarah's shoulders. "We were so happy," she said softly. "We were," I answered. She turned to me. "Why did you answer last night?" The question wasn't about the phone. It was about the years. "Because it was you," I said. Her eyes filled. "Even after I disappeared?" "Grief makes people run," I said gently. "I figured you were trying to survive." She swallowed hard. "That night at the funeral, in the rain, I know." We let the rest hang there. Some memories don't need finishing. She took a breath. "I need to go back." My chest tightened. "Why?" "My things, my documents, everything I own is in that house." "You're not going alone." She hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, together." We drove to Maple Street in daylight this time. The house looked less perfect in the sun, paint peeling near the garage, a gutter hanging loose. Derek's car wasn't there. Inside, the air felt cold. Her boxes were already packed. 3 of them, neatly labeled in his handwriting. I opened the first one. Her clothes had been cut apart. Every shirt sliced down the middle, dresses and ribbons. The second box held photographs, torn into pieces. Wedding photos of her parents, pictures of Sarah, of Emma as a baby. The third box held jewelry, bent and broken. Her grandmother's necklace snapped clean in 2. "He did this last night," Lena whispered, while I was outside. Something inside me went very still. "We're documenting this," I said quietly. "And we're filing a report." She looked at me like she wanted to argue. Then the sound of a car door slamming outside cut through the house. Derek was home. Lena's hand found mine before she even realized she'd reached for it. "Breathe," I said softly. Footsteps moved through the house below us. Slow, controlled. And then he was at the bedroom door. He filled the doorway like he owned the air in it. Suit pressed. Hair perfect. Not a wrinkle on him anywhere. If you didn't know better, you'd think he'd just come from a board meeting instead of walking into a room full of shredded clothes and broken photographs. "Lena," he said, smooth as ever. "I was wondering when you'd come back." She didn't step behind me, but I felt her move closer. "You locked me out," she said quietly. He tilted his head. "You left after we argued. I told you to cool off. You're confused." The way he said it, calm, patient, like she was a child misremembering a story. I held my ground. "We saw the boxes," I said. "We documented everything." His eyes shifted to me then, cool, measuring. "And you are?" "Caleb." Recognition flickered. Not surprise. Calculation. "Oh," he said softly, "the widower." Lena's fingers tightened around mine. "You destroyed my things," she said. He glanced at the boxes. "Old junk. I was cleaning out space. You've been emotional lately. I thought simplifying might help. Every word carefully shaped to sound reasonable. You approached my daughter at school," I said. His smile didn't move. "Coincidence. I waved. That's all." He stepped farther into the room. "You think you're rescuing her?" he asked me quietly. "You think she's some victim?" "She is," I said. For a second, something slipped behind his eyes. Not anger. Not exactly. Ownership. "She needs stability," he said. "Structure. Not some man playing hero because he never got over his dead wife's friend." The room went still. Lena stepped forward before I could stop her. "I'm leaving," she said. "Not for him, not because of him, because of you." He laughed under his breath. "You'll regret that." "Maybe," she said, "but it'll be my regret." We gathered the documents, left the rest. He didn't block the door, didn't raise his voice. But as we reached the bottom of the stairs, he spoke again. "I know where you live," he said calmly. "Small town." I slid down my spine. "You stay away from my daughter." He held up his hands lightly. No threats, just facts. We walked out anyway. The drive home was quiet. Lena stared out the window, pale. "I shouldn't have called you," she whispered. "Now he knows about Emma." I pulled into my driveway and turned off the engine. "You did exactly what you should have done," I said. You left. She looked at me, fear and guilt mixed together. But now we do this the right way, I continued. Police, documentation, restraining order. He'll fight it. Then we fight back. For a moment, she just sat there. Then she nodded, together. The first few nights after the order was signed, Lena still startled at small sounds. A car door closing too hard down the street. A phone buzzing on the counter. Footsteps behind her in a parking lot. Fear doesn't leave just because paper says it has to. But something else started growing in its place. Routine. She found a small job at a local non-profit helping women who were starting over. The irony wasn't lost on her. Some evenings she came home tired in a good way, with stories about paperwork and phone calls and women who needed someone steady in the room. I don't feel useless anymore, she told me one night while drying dishes. I feel needed. You always were, I said. Emma took to her in the easy way children do when they feel safe. They baked together, painted together, sat on the floor going through old photo albums of Sarah when Emma asked about her mother. The first time Lena cried over those pictures, I expected it to break something open again. Instead, it stitched something back together. Grief didn't feel like betrayal anymore. It felt like memory. One Saturday morning, snow dusted the yard in a thin white sheet. Emma insisted we build a snow family, 3 snowmen standing side by side. This one's Daddy, she said, packing snow into a round shape. This one's me. And this one is Miss Lena. The third one got the purple scarf. We stood back to look at them, 3 uneven shapes leaning slightly toward each other. Looks about right, I said. Lena slipped her hand into mine without hesitation, not out of fear, not because she needed rescuing, just because she wanted to. Later that night, after Emma had fallen asleep under her purple nightlight, Lena and I sat on the porch again. The same porch where I had once believed my life would stay small and quiet forever. I'm still scared sometimes, she admitted. I am too, I said, but I'm not scared of you. There was something steady in her voice that hadn't been there before. I don't want to rush, she continued. I don't want to pretend nothing happened. I just want to build something slow, something that doesn't disappear when things get hard. We can do slow, I told her. Slow is good. She looked at me then the way she used to look at Sarah when they shared a private joke. Soft. Open. I love you, she said. The words didn't feel rushed or desperate. They felt earned. I love you too, I answered. Not because I saved her, not because she needed saving, but because somewhere between that midnight phone call and the quiet mornings that followed, we stopped running from what had always been there. Some phone calls split your life into before and after. This one didn't just change everything. It reminded me that sometimes love isn't loud. Sometimes it's just opening the door when someone knocks in the dark, and choosing to keep it open. If this story found a place in your heart, stay a while. There's always another quiet moment waiting just beyond the porch.